Okay, I'm live, and this is going to be hard, but we're going to get through it all. So October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Let's get some glare from the thing. Let's fix the light first. So October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I am a survivor. I was in a relationship from October 2010 until I would say January 2015, but it really didn't end until August or September of 2016, and I'll go into that. Today's significant because it is the 10th anniversary of me actually meeting my abuser for the first time. And we started dating shortly after that. And that's why I wanted to do it on this date, October 4th. So at the time I met him, I was in a really vulnerable place to begin with. My father was dying of cancer. The year earlier, I had a lot of eye problems. Like, I thought at one point I was going blind. I had to have eye surgery. I had lost my job. I had lost my modeling agency. So I had had a whole lot of changes. So when I met him, I thought I was in a good state. I was accepting that my dad was terminal, but I'm still in a vulnerable state of my father was dying. And we moved in together. Everything was great. He took me to Vegas for dating for 3 months, asked me to move in with him. 6 months later, we moved in together after 8 months of dating. Everything was fine. Everybody thought this was fairy tale, great, awesome. The first red flag should have been when we got our apartment and it was miles away from my friends. Now, if you don't know the geography of Los Angeles, we both lived in the Valley at the time, and he wanted to move us to Mid-City, which is south of Hollywood, which is literally 10, 15 miles from North Hollywood, which might as well be 2-3 hours. So the first thing he did was separate me from my friends. That should have been a red flag. But I thought, oh no, he sold it as, we'll be closer to our jobs downtown. You won't have to get up at 7:30 a.m. to make a 10 a.m. audition in Santa Monica. So I went with it. It was all good. My dad was getting worse. We flew to Ohio so that my dad could meet this guy, because my dad was like, if you're going to be living with this guy, I need to meet him. So that went, and we had a few little spats, but nothing big, nothing that was like, oh, this was a bad mistake. Bad mistake. And then my father died a little shortly after we had been dating for a year. And when I came back from my dad's funeral, it's things had started to change. First off, I had really bad anxiety. The flight back was horrible. It was bad turbulence. It's to the point where I was thinking we were going to crash. I literally had my first panic attacks during this whole last month of my dad's life and flying back for his funeral. I got super duper sick. And this is when the gaslighting began. First, he told me that it was all in my head. I was making myself sick with anxiety. I actually literally had an anxiety-induced acid reflux problem. I couldn't even drink water. I would throw it back up and it would just be stomach acid. Even when he took me to the hospital, again, another red flag, he would not let me talk to the doctor. He did all the talking to the doctor. I wasn't allowed to speak for myself. That should have been a red flag for me, but when you're in an emotional spot of, I can't even drink water, I've lost like 20 pounds, um, you kind of just, oh, you'll take care of me. It'll be great. He also spoiled me rotten. And we had Disney season passes. Um, and he would say, oh, let's go to Disney. I'd be like, oh, I have an audition for a student. He's like, it's just a student film. And I'd be like, yeah, you're right. It's just a student film. I want real acting jobs. Now, he was an actor too. I say was because I don't even know if he's still an actor. Um, so, but then things got worse. He convinced me to take 3 months off my acting career to get better because the doctor said I had exhaustion. But then he started convincing me that I really was sick. I was frail. He monitored everything I ate and drank after the doctor gave him a list of things that I should and shouldn't have. Like, I would literally have to be like, hey, is this okay for me to eat? That's not normal in a relationship. So what I'm saying here right now is not all domestic violence is physical. It starts to get psychological and verbal and other things, but we will get into that later. I have a whole list. One time, and the fights would start more because I felt I was, after like 3 months or so, I was healthy. I had 3 or 4 months, I was feeling better. I was like, okay, let's start, but I was still on medications. He still had me convinced that I was this fragile person that was not well, just not well physically, not well mentally, and that I needed him to take care of me. There was another time at Disney where we literally got in a fight over whether to stay or go. It was like Disney had a 24-hour event, and it was like a cluster fuck of long lines and stuff. And we literally like started raising our voices. I'm not telling you, if you raise your voice at Disneyland, you will have so much security around you. We had Anaheim cops. We had Disney security. I was like, great. All we're doing is having a little argument here. The cops literally followed us around the park, which that should have been a red flag. Wasn't, So some verbal abuse, a lot of lashing out. He got me banned from my favorite sushi place in Studio City because he raised a stink over crab meat being an imitation, and he somehow blamed me for it on the ride home. Even though they tried to call the cops on him because he wasn't going to pay for our dinner. Then things really took a turn for worse. Oh, he left for about 2 months in 2012 over, I don't even know what the fight was about, but literally I should have just walked away then. But because of my mind, I thought I was so sick that I needed him. I begged him back. And then still, things didn't get better. We fought more and more and more. He stopped, there was no intimacy in our relationship at this point. That was probably around the last time we had sex. Literally, the last time. Because he convinced me that I needed to get better mentally before he could have an intimate relationship with me. To which goes in domestic violence is sexual. Withholding sex, withholding affection is another way that domestic abusers control their partners. Again, I have a whole list. We will get into it later. I just wanted to break down first the timeline of my own situation and then explain more what domestic violence is, and then my specific type, which was emotional abuse. 2014 got even worse because he had a friend who committed suicide. Now, 3 months 2 or 3 months prior, we had seen this friend, we had met this friend, and he said, "Oh, let's go have lunch." He never had lunch with this guy. And then this guy was dead. And then he blamed himself because he didn't have lunch with him. But he also blamed me, saying, well, I had to do X, Y, and Z with you. I never told him once, you must do this with me. In fact, I wanted to do things with my friends. I wanted to do things on my own. But somehow it was my fault that his friend killed himself. A guy that I had met one time. That's when he started drinking more, and it got really bad. Like, he would just yell at me for no reason. The smallest little thing could set him off. I could blink wrong, and it would be an argument that would leave one of us barricaded in a room and just screaming, or him driving off drunk sometimes. There are many times where I wish I would have just called the cops and been like, my boyfriend just left the house and he's drunk. But I knew it would come back on me, so I didn't. By January 2015, he broke up with me. And literally the fight was this. We were having a Super Bowl party and planning for it. And his friend was bringing his new girlfriend. And I jokingly said, well, I hope she likes me. Because I was desperate for female friends, especially like going on double dates and stuff, because I actually felt more comfortable when we were in a group, because I knew he wouldn't start a scene at a restaurant. That literally became, you're a narcissist, you're a selfish bitch, all you do is think about is yourself. And it led to a breakup. Like, I would beg. He forced me to go to therapy several times. Now, I did need it when my dad died. I didn't need it afterwards. And the therapist would always be like, you're fine. You're in an abusive relationship. You need to get out. And I'd be like, no. You know, he can change. He can change. No, he can't. If you're in an abusive situation, they are not going to change. Leave them. Unfortunately, because of Los Angeles having high rent, I was forced to live with this guy for like another year and a half. Like, literally. And it wasn't so much that I was forced, but in my mind, I was too scared to live on my own. I was too scared to find another roommate. I was too scared to just leave, because he had me convinced that I couldn't take care of myself. I couldn't financially take care of myself. Like, first one was physically, mentally, and that I needed someone to take care of me. He wrote emails to my mother telling her that she should come and get me and take me back to Ohio because I couldn't take care of myself. Yeah. And so 2016, he had by then found another girl who he's now, I believe, married to. That's funny how that always works. They marry the next girl afterwards. But it left me with a sense of thinking that I was sick, thinking I couldn't take care of myself. I'd also gained a bunch of weight. There's pictures on my Instagram right now that I posted from when I met, the night I met him, 2 years in, 4 years in. And then while we were broken up and living together, and you can just see the changes in my weight and stuff, or you can also see the changes in my face and my expression and the deadness in my eyes. There's also gaslighting, convincing me that I had done stuff that I hadn't. Gaslighting is another thing that abusers do. There was one time we were driving and it was hot. So I cracked the window, and he was convinced that this is the stupidest shit ever. He was convinced I farted, and he made a big stink of it. That started a fight. Literally started a fight because I cracked the window open on my car. There was another time and this might be TMI for some of you guys. If you are males and watching this, this might be TMI. He swears that I period blooded a towel in our bathroom. He never let me see the towel. Never let me see the towel. He only showed me the stain, which was makeup. Yeah. Because here's why. I wasn't even on my period. But he convinced me that for years, and it would always come back. That's another thing. They will bring it back even months, weeks, days, years later. It will still have that. Super jealous, but we'll get into that when we talk about emotional abuse. So if you see me looking up, it's because I have notes, because there's key points that I want to hit. So domestic violence is physical, which everyone knows about. Everyone knows if you have a black eye or something, you didn't just fall down the stairs. But it's also psychological. They get into your head. It's financial. He made more money than me. So a lot of times decisions would be made without even consulting me and my finances, yet I was expected to pay half. Or other situations where, you know, I was convinced I could not leave because he would have control of money. He literally, I'm pretty sure, got me fired from a job. So there's that. And then he arranged for me to get a job elsewhere that made less money. But I had to take it because you've been unemployed for a month. It's verbal. I've endured so much crap that some of these fights were just horrible. There's one, we lived on the second floor. We had these giant windows that were literally like at least 10 feet. As the second floor. And even though he never laid a hand on me, one night he did threaten to throw me out the second floor window because I was, quote, worse than Hitler. Hitler had more compassion than you. That was his line to me. Domestic violence is sexual. It's withholding intimacy. It's using sex as a weapon. It's, on the other hand, it's being forceful. There are, you know, women who have been raped by their partners because it's about control. It's digital. And for me in the digital, he controlled when I could post on social media, what I could post on social media, how I could post on social media. He was convinced that I was addicted to the internet when really Twitter and Facebook were my outlets. Those were my outlets before. I had a decent Twitter following. I don't now because I have a new account. But he would get jealous that guys would message me. He would accuse me of flirting with him. I wasn't. He didn't like me live tweeting baseball games. I wasn't allowed to have an Instagram account. Everybody was hopping on Instagram between like 2010, 2013, 14. I wasn't allowed. If you notice on my Instagram, my first post is May, or somewhere around April or May of 2015. When we broke up, I was like, I'm getting an Instagram. You can't tell me what to do. It's stalking. He didn't stalk me that I know of. But then again, I get anonymous letters to my apartment, so who knows? Maybe it's him just insulting me. I never open them. It's spiritual or cultural. I'm a firm believer in like karma and coincidences and, you know, astrology and stuff. And he would mock that. He'd also mock where I was from or how I said things. Like I say umbrella funny. I know I say umbrella funny. It's my accent. It's where I'm from. It's damage to property. I learned not to value things. Like he didn't hit me, but he would throw things at me. We had holes in our wall. I had a giant chunk taken out of my dining room table, which I no longer own. I sold it when I left LA, but he took a chunk because he threw an iPad into the table to throw it at me. And he'd throw far enough to miss me, but not to, damage my stuff. He once took a plate out of my hand that had a sandwich on it. I hadn't eaten like all day. He took the plate and slammed it on the ground, broke the plate in half. Of course, I couldn't eat the sandwich because it probably had glass in it at that point. And then yelled at me to clean it up while I'm crying and hungry. So I didn't learn, I was like, don't get too attached to your physical stuff because he'll probably fuck it up. There's other countless things that he damaged. Yeah. There's also, I speak highly of the night in 2016 when I had to barricade myself in a room because he was drunk and he pounded on the door for an hour, 2 hours total, but for an hour of it, screaming at me to kill myself and trying to convince me to kill myself because nobody cared about you except your mom. No one wants you. You're damaged goods. You're a selfish bitch. You're a narcissist. And these are all things that my therapist, I was in therapy at the time too. She was like, he's projecting. Everything he says about you is how he feels about himself. And that's the case 9 times out of 10 with these abusers. Yeah. Need a breath. It's a lot. It's a lot. He had another thing where I did gain weight because I would have to eat whatever he cooked. And it wasn't always the skinniest stuff. So I would try to measure my food like I did when I lived by myself and track and he would mock it. He would make fun of it. He would be like, you're not doing this. I got the heaviest I'd ever gotten in my life. I ended up at like 170 pounds. I'm 5'9", yet my build, and yes, that's just slightly at the high average range, but my build that just looks heavy on me. My skinniest I got when I was dealing with all the acid reflux was 123, and he told me I looked fabulous. There was a point in time, luckily the 170 was after we had broken up, but still living together, to the point where I said, you can't control me. Because I was told if I ever got over 150, he was kicking me out of the apartment. And he would make me get on the scale and weigh myself. Yes, I had weigh-ins to live in my own apartment. Because he didn't want to date a fat chick. Meanwhile, who cares how much weight he gained? I mean, I can post photos. You can look at the weight gain that he's gained, but it was okay if I didn't. There was also a lot of jealousy because we both took time off of our acting careers when I was having my whole anxiety problem after my dad died. Yet when we both started back up, I had a little more success than him. And it's not because of anything other than I hustle. a hustle on social media, and the game had at that time changed. You needed to be on Instagram, you needed to be on Twitter, you needed to be on Facebook, you needed to network on at least one of or two of the three. And he was very anti-social media, very, I don't want to go to networking events, I don't want to do this. He would dissuade me from going to them. But I still had some success, and he would tell me that it was because of how I looked, or it wasn't because of my talent. He was a classically trained theater actor. I wasn't, I'm a model turned actor. I learned on set. He would coach me for auditions, but literally he would just sabotage them. There was time when I had a callback for a national commercial. Huge. I was perfect for it. There's no way I wasn't getting this. He, instead of letting me do my thing, go to bed early, get sleep, he started a fight with me, kept me up until 4 a.m. when I had to be up at 8 a.m. And then also started a fight with me before I left to go to the audition, so that I was crying on the way there and then looked like shit for it. It was little things like that, little microaggressions, such as those things. If I'm stuttering and rambling, I apologize, but it's just a little much. And I'm still, I'm 4 years removed from even seeing him. I'm still a little triggered. So here's what emotional abuse looks like. And it looks like belittling, which he would do. He would tell me that, you're not talented. You're, a narcissist. You're a selfish bitch. You only think about yourself. It's name calling again, right there. It's verbal aggression. Like the littlest thing could set him off. He would cook these massive meals. Oh, and holidays. We always had to go all out for Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and the Super Bowl. He would have these massive parties or massive events where he would just cook all day and everything. And I was expected to participate in it. And I was expected to clean it up, whether I consented or this at all. At one point I had a job where I had to work on Super Bowl Sunday. I didn't do anything except work at my job and then come and eat a couple cold chicken wings because he's been there partying all day with his friends. Yet I need to stay up till 3 a.m. to help him clean. I didn't ask for this. I'm the type that if you choose to make the mess, yes, I should. If I'm eating, yeah, maybe I should help and clean. A good partner would. But to expect and demand, that's not cool. Stonewalling, condescending, withholding affection was a big one with him. Like I said, I think 2012 was the last time we had sex. I think 2013 was the last time he said that he loved me, which that should have been a red flag to get the fuck out. It wasn't for me, though. Actually, he stopped telling me that he loved me when he moved back in, after he moved out for like 2 months in 2012. He told me I had to earn it back. That's literally what he had to say. Controlling. He would keep me away from my friends. One of the things that he did say is that he would say, oh, your ex-roommate X and Y told me that I should have never moved in with you, that you would be a nightmare because you were the worst roommate ever. Only problem is they never said it. I literally called up my friend and I was like, did you? And they were like, no, I would never say that. You were like, we had our problems as roommates, but you weren't the worst. So he lied. He controlled. He Emotional abuse is isolating you, which is exactly what he did, moving me away from my friends. He would also kinda limit the visits I could take home to see my parents. He would be like, "No, we need money for, X, Y, and Z. You really don't have the money to go home." So my mom would end up buying the plane ticket. My mom would buy the plane ticket and be like, "You're coming home for a week. You're coming home for 2 weeks." Did he ever come with me? No. He didn't even come home for my dad's funeral with me, which that should have also been a red flag. Emotional abuse looks like making scenes. He loved to make scenes and somehow make them look my fault, like the scene at Disneyland, like the scene at the sushi place. There's other times he made scenes and it was awful. Um, Hypercritical. Like, I walked around on eggshells, and that's actually coming up on this list because after I name all these things that emotional abuse are, I'm going to tell you what the results are. Guilt trips. There's a picture on my Instagram right now. It shows me in like a bunch of corn stalks. My big thing is I love fall. It's my favorite season. It's different in Los Angeles. You actually have to go like into like the mountains, the foothills to get that true fall experience. I wanted to go to like a pumpkin patch and apple picking. The day that we happened to go, he asked for the day off of his job. He got it, or he already had. He only had like he had like a set schedule and like specific days off. I woke up with a horrible migraine. I have a history of migraines. I really just wanted to stay in bed. Instead, it was get up, we're going. You wanted this. I took the day off. You're going. And I'm talking brain crushing, light, like I can't do anything without sunglasses. And of course, it was a sunny day. He actually made me take one of his Vicodin. Yeah, prescription drugs that weren't mine. And said, take this Vicodin, get in the car, we're going. So if you look at the photo on my Instagram, which is up right now, I will put my Instagram in here. If you look at that right now, we'll wait until the video's over. He basically was like, get in, you're going. So you get to see a bunch of photos of me. Well, if I showed them all, there's just one there. I'm fake smiling. I have my sunglasses on. I'm in misery. Like, I really don't even remember going to that because I was so looped out on the Vicodin. When actually I just needed to be in bed with ice packs on my head. Emotional abuse, the final one, and I'm reading this off my phone. Extreme jealousy. So this is also why I'm wearing my Simon Le Bon earrings. We all know I'm a huge Duran Duran fan. I love them. Right when we started dating is when their album All You Need Is Now came out. I was hoping, to go see a lot of shows. I think I saw maybe one show on that tour, even though they came to Los Angeles and nearby several times, maybe twice. I think maybe one time my mom flew me out to Ohio so I could actually see them because she knew it wasn't going to happen in Los Angeles at that point. And yes, he was jealous of a band that I'd liked for almost 30 years. As if I was going to run away with Simon Le Bon at a concert. I literally could not spend money to go see Duran Duran. I could not spend money on merch. I could not spend money to go see them. Like, even I think their film concert came out. I think I had to lie to go see the David Lynch when it was in the theaters, their concert film. But there's another time the second Thor movie came out. Now, I don't know if you remember the Thor trailer for the second Thor movie. There was a thing of Chris Hemsworth shirtless. And I made a comment. Just a nonchalant. Oh, it set off the biggest, you don't find me attractive, blah, blah, blah. Why are you looking at other men? Da, da, da. Just because you're in a relationship with someone doesn't mean you're dead. Yes, you shouldn't flirt with these, but these are celebrities. This is no one that I'm just going to walk down to Starbucks and start having an affair with. Okay? So, all that emotional abuse results in low self-esteem, which I definitely had coming out of this. Like, if you look, I didn't do a lot of modeling jobs. If I did, they were paid. Before, I was testing left and right. If you look at me now, I'm constantly doing photo shoots. Constantly. But because my time on the internet was limited, I wasn't allowed to look at castings outside of casting networks and Actors Access that came in my email or came through my agent. So there was like no model mayhem. There was no one model place, which were still, you could still find legit jobs. In Los Angeles, you could still find legit jobs on Craigslist at the time. I wasn't allowed to do those things that I had done prior to meeting him. Walking on eggshells constantly. Like, I would be afraid to go get a haircut or get my hair colored for the fear that it would be the wrong shade, or it would be too short, or it wouldn't be up to whatever he felt I should look like. Again, walking on eggshells. If these times I would have to clean up for his cooking, if I would miss like one spot, or there'd be like one smudge on a cup coming out of the dishwasher, it would be like, you're dirty. You don't know how to clean. Just constant verbal abuse that wears down your self-esteem, your self-worth, anxiousness around your friends. They'd be like, oh, what's up? And which goes into the next one, is lying about your relationship to protect your partner's image. Whoo! I've done so much lying, and I still, even after I didn't live with him, still did lying to protect his image because I didn't want to mess with his acting career. I have casting director friends that would be like, what's his name? I'd be like, I'm not telling you, because I don't want his headshot to come across your thing and then you not give him a gig because of what he did to me. But I've now moved on past that. It was hard with my former agent. She knew him because she had actually met with him, which I did try to get him. I tried to help his acting career. He didn't have an agent. I tried to get him meetings with agents and managers, and somehow every time he didn't get signed, it was my fault. My fault that his headshots weren't what they wanted, or my fault that his reel wasn't what they wanted, or he didn't even have a reel. My fault. It leads to depression. Emotional abuse shockingly leads to depression, which I had definitely after my dad died. I was on Zoloft. I've been on Prozac and then back on Zoloft. I can't do SSRIs. He actually made me get on the Prozac because he was convinced it would help with my anxiety. But the anxiousness is because I was walking around on eggshells, wondering what will start the next fight? What will set him off? And what can I do to avoid setting him off? That's what you live with. Insomnia, definitely. Like, I would be afraid, especially from about 2014 to the time he moved out, insomnia, because I would get to sleep and he would decide that he was mad at me and have to wake me up to fight with me. Wake me up to fight with me. Or I would need to go to bed at the same time as him. I couldn't go to bed before him. or I couldn't stay up after him. That's how controlling these people can be. Poor concentration, I already have because I have ADHD, so that's probably why I ramble too in this video. Poor concentration, and definitely, I would be in the middle of sentences and go like just forget things or just forget to do something, which of course would set off a fight. It's kind of like a circle that never ends. That's sort of what emotional abuse is. It's a circle that never ends. So you've got the poor concentration. You forget something because of the poor concentration. Now you've started a fight. So now here comes the name calling, the belittling, the chronic fatigue. Definitely chronic fatigue. Like there were days where I just didn't want to get out of bed. All I could do was sleep. It would be awful. And feeling helpless. Like I literally would be like, what can I do to make this? I'm helpless. I'm stuck in this situation. And because I've been isolated from my friends, or my friends have stopped talking to me because for 2 years they've been trying to get me to listen and I won't, so they've given up, which leads to more control because that's what happens. Yeah. So that is my experience and how once I got away, I found myself in another bad situation because I wanted to go to the first like guy that actually gave me the time of day. And then that led to another bad situation, which is a whole nother YouTube video. But anyway, church, therapy. Okay, siren in the background. Reconnecting with my friends was a big one. Finding strong women on the internet has been another one. Strong women that have already gone through what I've gone through. Inspirational quotes. I know it seems lame as shit, but it's true. And just doing things that I liked before, like tweeting live baseball games. It's been a little weird in COVID, but, you know, reconnecting again with those friends. I had to rebuild relationships because I had called friends liars. I damaged a lot of friendships protecting him. Luckily, I've mended a lot of them. Some of them will never be the same. But, you know, you live, you learn. It took a while. And I still, even till about a year ago, would get very anxious if someone got in my face and yelled at me. It happened at my job. Somebody was upset. They got in my face and yelled at me. And the next thing I know, I'm having a panic attack. A little PTSD. Anyway, it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And you should be aware, like I said, that it's not just physical. It's verbal, it's emotional, it's psychological, it's financial, sexual, digital, stalking, spiritual, cultural. Going into the cultural, there's a lot of religions where you just don't leave your abuser. That's the person that you are with, and you will stay with them no matter what. Thank God that was not my situation. And yeah, damaged properly. Thankfully, and she's not here, shockingly, he never hurt my cat. One of his things would be that he would actually he'd buy the cat presents. I got the cat literally the day before he walked out for 2 months or like a month and a half in 2012. And he told me I could keep the cat. And then we got in a big fight, I think, over the cat, which is why he left for like a month and a half. But there would be times where we would get in a huge fight. He would tell me I was awful, a bitch, everything in the book, stupid, and next thing I know, here's a giant cat tree, which it's not that cat tree. Or here's a giant cat tree for the cat, or here's some toys, or this cat has so many toys because he would buy the affection of the cat. The cat literally is scared of males. And I'm pretty convinced it's because of his yelling while she was a kitten. So, animals do get damaged in this as well. So, um, I hope you've enjoyed this or at least been educated by it. Um, yeah, this is rough. And I think now I'm going to go for a walk and rehearse some lines because, like I said, I refound my mojo. I'm very happy and confident in myself now. And I just wanted to I felt it was finally time to speak my truth. Never, I didn't name him. I don't think I did. And I'm sure if you do your research on the internet, you can find out who he is. But that's not the point. The point is to make you aware that just because I didn't have a black eye doesn't mean I didn't have a black eye. And that goes the same for other women as well. Just because you don't see the abuse doesn't mean it's not happening. So if you start to notice that your friends are suddenly in a relationship, but they're isolating, or they're not talking to you as much, or it just seems something's off, look into it.